All right, welcome everyone. I've been really excited about this interview for a couple weeks now as we've been planning it. And I am really excited to introduce you to Racheal tonight. She is one of those people that I'm just constantly amazed by. I'm like, are you serious? Like the way that she lives her life is so refreshing and so powerful and inspiring. She's one of those people that she's reached into the far reaches of what's possible, which is what always interests me. Like what is the edge of human potential? And then she actually lives it, and she's got such joy. She's living her dream life. And, one day she's doing ceramics. One day she's painting a thing. One day she's leading magic wand, classes. One day she's selling in two of her shops. One day she's designing tarot cards. One day she's writing a book. One day she's fishing, in her stream, so it's like in all aspects of her life, from her relationships to her home, to her business, to her work. It's really inspiring to see her live in joy. And I think that's been part of your secret sauce.
Thank you.
And maybe your brainwaves. But, recently you had someone say that this could be your last life, that this, like, you're graduating. That's so cool.
Yes, I had my first Akashic record reading that was gifted to me by one of my dear friends. And the first thing that she told me was that if I wanted to ascend in this lifetime, I can.
Do you want to?
Oh, yeah.
On to another planet, right?
And she said, if I keep working with my teacher, I will. And
who's your teacher?
Well, I was working with Max Christensen at the time.
Oh, wow. Cool. Cool. That's great. Well, I'm so excited to share your wisdom tonight with this community. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about brainwaves. We're going to talk about her new book. We're going to talk about tarot cards. We're going to talk about crystal. We're going to talk about the struggle she's had, her childhood, and how you got over your fear of ETs,
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited. But one of the things that I wanted to start with, because it was so mind-blowing to me, like literally, is that you told me that when you Theta heal someone, if you could explain this, but like you were like, oh yeah, I can stop someone from smoking cigarettes or drinking in one session. And I was like, in what world is that possible?
Yeah.
Please explain.
So again, it comes down to two things: reclaiming your power and belief. So we can heal or change our life as fast as we have the belief in place. If we believe something's hard, it's going to be hard. If we believe that we have to take a long time, it might take a long time. But if you believe in instantaneous healing, which we already know is more than possible, it happens all the time. And we know that we have a choice every single day to take our power back, to step into our full potential. And when someone chooses to do that for the first time, they feel the shift in their energy. So in a Theta healing session, for example, when I show them what it feels like to remove the spirit of alcohol or to remove the spirit of tobacco, a substance that had a hold on them, and they feel their power return for the first time, I ask them and I give them the choice: do you want to smoke again? Do you want to drink again? Do you want to give this power away, or do you want to hold it? And they always choose to hold that power because it feels so good in that moment. And they didn't know the power was missing until they felt it return.
Wow. Well, so my friend was talking, like, she has this company called Leap of Consciousness. And I was like, that's interesting, because leap implies that one day it's one thing, and then all of a sudden you have that like boom, and it's not the same. But like, I don't get it. Like, is it because they're having an experience? Like, how could it be that the next day they're not doing that? Like,
all right. So every day we have choices to make, right?
Yeah.
And so every day we hopefully choose better. And sometimes it can happen overnight, right? You have a life-changing experience. People have car accidents, or they have sickness, or they have something major in their life that causes them to have a change of heart, a change of energy. But sometimes it's as simple as something small, one healing session, right? 1 hour where you actually go into your subconscious, you actually face the very thing that you were afraid to look at. You face it, you realize it's not that big of a deal, it's not scary. And you take your power back in that moment, and you decide the next day, I'm keeping my power. I'm not going to make those choices again. And then the desire is gone. So part of the shift is actually getting rid of the desire and finding out where it comes from in the first place. And usually people feel so good from theta sessions that and it's a permanent change. So when they make that change, they feel it. And then the next day they wake up and they feel different. People respond to them differently. Things start to shift in their external world around them to reflect the internal changes that they just did.
So can you talk about why the subconscious mind kind of rules us and why it's important to get in there and why it's important, as you were just remarking, let's get down to the core belief, because you could think that you're doing, that you're not having romance or you're not having money or you're not having job success or drinking too much or all these things for another reason. It's not even that, but what's the deal with the subconscious mind? Why does it rule us so much?
Well, think of it as a data processing or storage center.
Okay.
Right? There's a lot of information that we learn throughout our lifetime, and everything gets stored in our subconscious. So it's up to our conscious mind, our 5%, right, of our brain that we're using every day for conscious awareness to, we're usually looking at our external reality. We're using our conscious mind to look around us, what's going on, we're reacting. But you can turn your conscious mind inward and look at your subconscious and say, I'm going to pull something from my database or from my internal storage and say, what is this belief that I have running? Where does it really come from? Why am I impulsively doing these things in my life? Do I actually want this, or is it conditioned? Or did somebody else in my childhood tell me that I wanted this? So I formed the belief that I wanted it, but I really don't, right? We have to question these things. And there comes a time when once you have the tools to do it, it becomes very easy.
Yeah, that's so cool. For those of you that are joining us on New Realities and Portal to Ascension, I wanted to invite you guys into the Zoom room because this is going to be, we're going to be getting into small groups and talking and hanging out. So if you want to get into the Zoom room, you also have an opportunity to ask Racheal questions. We already have questions up. I mean, this guy's saying I did theta healing, it didn't work. What did he have? A bad healer, or he didn't get in theta brain? What do you think might have happened for him?
I'd be curious to talk to him and find out what exactly it was. So there's a couple of reasons. In a theta healing session, when a client is talking to me, they'll say, here's what's going on in my reality. And they're saying one thing, but I'm usually hearing intuitively something deeper, something they're not. So it's whatever they're not saying. So typically, to have a really effective belief change, I'm writing down something that the person's not saying out loud. And I know from experience, because I used to have a theta healer that I would go to who trained me. Her name is Belinda. She's amazing. And there was things I'd be afraid to say to Belinda, or I don't want to admit, right? You don't want to admit your flaws, or you don't want to admit these things that are hard. So you try not to say them. And you just kind of say you kind of get around the issue. You say what's going on. And then Belinda was, she was like a very harsh, but loving mother type. Like, she didn't skirt around the issue, and she didn't sugarcoat things, and she made me take responsibility. So she would just call it out the way it was. So that was really effective for me, because she would say the things out loud, and then I would test the beliefs that I was too afraid to ask. So in the theta healing session, when someone's saying what is going on, I will have to pull out the deeper questions from them, the deeper beliefs. And we want to go to the deepest layered belief, because if you go to the deepest one, it'll pull everything that's attached to it. So
can you give an example?
Okay, say your belief is really down here, but you've only, there's this whole layer, but you've only gone this far. And so maybe you pulled a few things, but you didn't get to the core belief. So that thing didn't change, because you didn't actually identify what it really was. That would probably be my guess as far as why the thing didn't change.
Yeah.
And then sometimes there's multiple beliefs running at the same time. So you might catch one part of it, but there might be something else to look at. Yeah. And this happens, and I say this from experience, because sometimes we just need to find the other angle we didn't catch, or think of it like a faceted diamond. We're all these diamonds, right? And we're continually polishing these different parts of ourselves. And so sometimes there's just a few little areas we have to look at. And in a session, typically everybody will change. And if we don't change, a belief, we go back and say, okay, why didn't you change the belief? What is it? And then it can be a past life persecution. It can be a vow, a contract. There's a lot of reasons. So when we get to the heart of it, or we might have missed something, say we only got part of it, the belief didn't change because there was more to it that we had to go back to.
Yeah. One of the most astounding things you told me once is that you start all your theta sessions like, what is your name? And then people don't even muscle test yes for that. They can't even, like, they're not even in their body.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a big thing too. We have to muscle test for yes and no. And you say, my name is, and you need to get a yes. But it's really common that people say my name is, and they get a no. And it's wild because I've seen people almost fly backwards across the room. Like they're going yes and no with their body. There can be attached spirits, entities. So we typically have to clear the entities or spirits from the person.
So they're like confused at who's running the vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. They're not really in charge, and they're partially in charge, and there's something else there, someone else there. I mean, I've had deceased loved ones. One person was a twin, but the twin died in the womb, and that twin was running her, and it was a male. And so it explained a lot of things to her, all the choices that were, not really hers. And when she felt him leave, she felt herself alone for the first time, her power. And that was a really big deal.
Wow.
And so we always have to get the person back in their body first and make sure they're in charge.
Yeah. Wow. So we're going to get back to your new book because we're talking about the theta healing. So I just wanted to say one cool thing about this book is that, so she shares like all of these like lists upon lists upon lists of permutation upon permutation for all the things that could be these hidden beliefs. And, she teaches, and we're going to do a workshop where she teaches you to just go through the list, and it's like laundry. It's like cleaning up the garage of your subconscious. Like, oh, I didn't know that I thought this, you know what I mean? Okay. Taking care of this one. And then like you said, Indigo, in the chat, like, then you retest, and it's not like, and then you just keep going until that one clears. So it's super cool. We're going to talk about that. But, I wanted to ask you, about your personal struggles. Like, what has been, like, what things did you need to clear? What like so many things did you trip up on yourself?
Okay, pretty much everything in the book. I mean, I speak from experience.
I'm seeing that because I'm like, wow, she's such a role model. Like,
thanks. Well, theta healing honestly was the modality that really changed my life. I was reading tarot when I was 14, so tarot came into my reality pretty early. I was seeing ghosts and supernatural very early, but there was never any answers to that. And I only had a Catholic upbringing. So everything is, church answers. It wasn't really anything helpful. And everything was kind of scary and overwhelming. And so fitting in was probably my biggest challenge, all my life. Because, when you're seeing ghosts and no one else is, and they're telling you that doesn't exist, how do you feel normal? Or I was told I was too sensitive. I grew up in a really tough home, tough childhood. So I had a lot of struggles early in my life up until I was 18. When I left home, my life got significantly better. And I had to do a lot of theta healing work to heal my relationship with my family. I had generations of abuse in my family that I had to clear, and then forgive, and then form a loving, healthy relationship with my mom and my dad, my sister. I mean, this took years. I've been doing theta healing for 10 years. My sister just came back into my life less than a year ago. Cool. So, my parents came back into my life maybe 3 years ago. So this work takes time. I changed a lot, and my family couldn't relate to me the way that they used to, which was a very unhealthy way of relating. So it took them some time to come around and relate to me in this new way. But they see me in a whole different light.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see you like doing your own thing. Like, you were telling me one day that you were like, yeah, when I stopped trying to fit in, I fit in better.
Or stop wanting to be, being accepted was another hard thing. So my family was they were supportive in some ways and they were unsupportive in many others. And so when you're not hearing words of affirmation at home, when you're hearing a lot of doubt, criticism, blaming, judgment, shame, a lot of things that are very unhealthy, it's hard to go out into the world and feel like you're going to fit in or be accepted. So it was definitely, I don't know where my self-confidence came from. It was somehow in me. I knew I had a lot of happiness in me. My happiness was suppressed for probably up until I left home at 18. Like I knew that when I left, I could fully unleash like what was inside. And I feel like I've been on a happiness high ever since.
Wow.
But then I had to work through all the issues, the feeling of rejection from my family, the feeling, of abandonment from my family, all the things. And then I had to learn, all I wanted was for them to love me unconditionally. And I couldn't figure out why, like, why don't they love me? Why don't they accept me? And I learned that I had to love them unconditionally. Like I had to find a way. Yeah. I had to accept them exactly the way they are, love them the way they are, not expect them to change. But ultimately they did change. So I did, I found a way to love them and forgive them. And some hard boundaries as well, soft heart, strong back. Like I always tell people this, keep a soft, compassionate heart space, but have strong boundaries, strong willpower. What you will and will not tolerate. I wrote letters to my family saying, this is not okay, and gave examples. This is how I need to be treated with love, kindness, and respect. And so my Theta Healer, Belinda, she was the one that challenged me to not give up on my parents and my family. Other people told me to walk away, like never talk to your family again, just walk away. And I wanted to just give up and have my own life and not have to deal with the stress and the abuse that was coming from them. But she challenged me, and I'm really glad she did. I never gave up. And it took about 10 years from start to finish. But I share this because I know many other people have difficult family situations and difficult upbringings. But the second that we take responsibility, and it's hard when you're young, and you can feel like a victim, you can feel like this isn't fair, why did this happen to me? But I think it strengthens us and it makes us really incredible, resilient people. And I knew when I entered the real world, it was like, it's going to be a lot easier because I've been through so much that strangers are very kind. Like strangers are nice, like people are kind out there. And it really gave me kind of a leg up, I feel like.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I've really watched people interact with you, and it's just so beautiful because they're attracted to your happiness and your like, and I really have learned that from you, the soft heart and strong thing, because you were like, if the universe doesn't know how to treat you, it's just going to keep throwing stuff at you. And then it has to understand. And sometimes you were like, oh yeah, I rejected that reality. Like, no, that's not the couch I wanted. You know what I mean? Like, give me something else. You know what I mean? So it's cool that you do that. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned you had a Catholic upbringing, and then you've also told me, and I've had my own like personal journey with the whole, everybody in the spiritual movement calls like source and whatever. And it's like, why don't you just call it God? And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to call it God. Yeah. And you keep telling me, you're like, if I clear someone up to their mom, it's not enough. I've got to clear them. And I think you're right, because when I thought of like God, I was like, oh my God, I'm so ashamed. Like, I can't stand before that. Like, like this is too embarrassing. So it was like, and it's bizarre that I felt like I need to be perfect in front of someone that's supposed to be unconditionally loving.
That's just the belief. I have to be perfect to be accepted by God. That's just the belief. It's a common belief. So I had a problem with the word God too, which is interesting.
You did?
Oh yeah. I don't think I ever told you this.
You did.
It's funny because everything is about, coming back to God. But it's true because the word God was the Catholic definition, or the church definition, right? A man in the sky, very patriarchal, right? I was like, I'm a woman, I'm powerful. Like, what's up with all these, men in charge? Like, I had a problem with that from a very early age. And also, I think we've all gone through past life persecution by the church. So That's a big one for subconscious healing. So I had a lot of resistance to church, resistance to the word God. When I started doing theta healing, I would just say universe, creator. It doesn't really matter what you call it. You know, there's been times where I've referred to love, universal life force, you know.
Someone told me today they call it big love or something. Yeah, love. That's hilarious.
As long as you believe in a higher power, a higher purpose, a higher power, and that there is an intelligent creator of this reality and of this world, that's all that matters, because that's how we place trust and surrender. So call it God, universe. You know, I believe God created the universe and created everything that's in it and all of us. And I don't really have a tangible definition for God. It's just some creator. Yeah.
Because like we talk about surrender and trust, and I just wanted to mention that Rachel's the one that has been co-hosting the spoon bending parties. Wait, I just want to say we're going to go into breakout rooms in about 10 minutes. So if you guys are if you're watching online and in the broadcast, you can go to lightnet.org Hangout, and then you're going to get into the Zoom rooms because we're going to start. But let's talk a little bit about the crazy journey we did on this spellbending, trust and surrender, and whatever else you want to throw in.
So yeah. Okay, so spoon bending has been a really fun new reality shift that Zenka introduced into my life. Thank you for that, Zenka. I love it because spoon bending is a way to take something physical and change it. And so you can see the results in a very physical way where, you know, the healing work that we do is energetic. And so it's not always as noticeable of a change. You know, it is noticeable in a feeling, but with a spoon, you take a piece of metal, you hold it in your hand, you decide that you want it to become hot, and then you surrender and you wait for the spoon to become hot, for the spoon to bend, and then all of a sudden it gives, and you can just twirl them like putty or bend the spoon in half and
sprout the seed like you've been doing champion seed sprouting.
Yeah.
Well, so what's your technique? Like if someone's like, oh, how do I do it? What would you
I don't
tell
do
them?
anything. It's the same technique I did in Biocybernaut. Nothing. Where I don't know, it's hard to explain because I'm not trying, I guess is the word. I guess I trust that it's going to happen and that I'm meant to have fun. And if I'm going to have fun, it means I'm going to bend a spoon, right? Like I'm there to have fun. I'm there to bend a spoon. If I know it's possible, I know that we're all going to do it. So I guess it's just a belief that it's going to happen. And so I just go for it and it happens. So I'm not visualizing light channeling through my body. I'm not even thinking. I'm just like, okay, here we are. Like, we're going to bend a spoon.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to go on a walk. We're going to go bend a spoon. It's just kind of like the same thing. Like, no big deal.
Yeah.
Like, all right, time to go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I guess that's my approach.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really the way that we've set those things up. They're supposed to be parties. Like, you just have fun, because if you take it too seriously, you're going to be like, why isn't this working? You know, and it's like, it doesn't work at all. So,
yeah.
So that's so cool. So let's talk more, you know, you mentioned Biocybernaut, and this is like absolutely fascinating. So I just want to say that Biocybernaut Institute, you could talk more about it, but sure. I just want to give a little intro that, you know, this is like the Tim Robbins of the world, spend $20K for a week to totally up level their life. Like, we're talking percentage points of IQ, creativity, emotional, I mean, just like off the charts. And it's well, okay. So talk about it and talk about what happened, because that was like a really life-changing pivot for you, right?
Yes. Okay. So I actually came to Sedona before I moved here to do a brainwave training, an alpha brainwave training in Biocybernaut. Now, I'd spent about 6 years at that point studying theta healing. So I knew the theta brainwave state very well. Theta is a subconscious training. The alpha training was conscious mind training. The alpha training was meditation. And it's 40 years of Zen meditation in 7 days.
What?
Yeah. Did you know that?
It's yeah, that's so crazy.
Using biofeedback technology to change your brainwaves. And it's the equivalent of meditating for 40 years. And I didn't even, it's funny because I didn't seek it out. I didn't say, oh, here's this thing I want to do. It looks really cool. I got invited to come and do it. And I was living in my RV. So
you left your tech
I
job behind in LA.
I called up a wedding in Malibu, left everything, but I gave away all my possessions. I left LA and I bought an RV and I traveled for a year. And I was really heartbroken at that time of traveling. I mean, my whole life was uprooted and I didn't know what my next home would be, but I knew I had to be in nature. I knew I needed some alone time to heal. And I got invited at the very end of that year on the road to come to Sedona. So I drove across country from Oregon to Sedona, found a campsite, and did this week-long training and did not know what to expect. He asked, what do you want
for double?
Yeah. It was with Dr. Hart. It was a premium double. So I was doing like double time or double, like 2 sessions in one for 1 week straight where, you go in the morning, there's no clocks, no time. You surrender your phones, like you go in and
it's dark.
You're in a dark chamber. There's electrodes hooked up to like the front, mid, back, all the different regions of your brain have electrodes. And then you have to sit very, very still in this chair because you don't want to pick up any movement or anything. You have to just want to collect the brain waves. But you keep your eyes closed, and as you're meditating, you hear the sound of your brain waves amplified with microphones and the sound of orchestra music or like it's instruments. So as you're meditating, you're creating a symphony orchestra out loud.
Wow.
And so this is the biofeedback that actually helps your brain to train itself and learn faster. And you keep your eyes closed, but every few minutes, I don't know time-wise how frequently these beeps happen, but I imagine like every couple minutes you hear a beep and you look and there's numbers on a screen in front of you that show you color-coded if you've gone higher or lower with your alpha. And so if you're doing better or worse just from the numbers and the colors. Then you go back and you do all these things. The training was judgment. It was going back to all the different pains and wrongs of your life and putting somebody on trial, picking 3 judges, putting them on trial, and then forgiving them. So it was all forgiveness work.
So someone did something wrong to you. You put them on the trial.
Yes. So you're holding a grudge, or you're holding something, right? And and you put them on trial. You put them on in front of these judges, and you forgive them. And then the judges, you have to impress the judges or they have to pass you, like that you've actually forgiven the person. And you do that using the technology.
And it was like a lie detector. So
it's
you
like
didn't.
Yeah, pretty much. So you have to pass each one before you can move on to the next. And so it was a lot of crying, which, I have to say, Theta healing can be a lot of crying too, but so is alpha. I mean, because you're going to these conscious pain points. You're going to the parts of your life that, you've been holding on to. And as you forgive the other person, your memories change. That's
interesting.
Yeah. So
I've heard about that.
This happened to me on day 5. Well, first of all, I had a lot of supernatural things happen.
We're going to get into later. I know this audience is like into that, so we can't wait. Okay.
But day 5 was probably my most profound day because I was holding on to shame and judgment.
Yeah.
And I was judging myself for an experience that I was projecting the blame onto this other person.
Yeah.
And so I looked at these memories I had of this person, and all I could see was the love that he had for me. I was thinking it was a really terrible experience. And I looked and I go, oh, he actually loved me. All the things he did were out of love. And then I saw it completely differently. And it was like my memories did a 180. It was like everything, I saw everything switch in my mind. I saw every memory that I was been holding as a wrong memory. And then I saw the right or the opposite memory come in. And in that moment, I realized reality is not real. Reality is whatever I think it is. And in that moment of realization that reality is not real, I left time and space. Like everything started melting. Then all of a sudden, time isn't real. Nothing is real. And I just left reality, time, space. I kind of went into this place of nothing and everything all at the same time. You can't really describe it in words because it felt so good. It was the emptiest space I've ever been in, where nothing exists. I didn't exist. And then I came back into my body and I realized, time is an illusion. Reality is sort of an illusion too. Reality is whatever I want it to be. And I dropped judgment in that moment of myself and judgment of others. And I couldn't do the training anymore because I could no longer find anything wrong with the memories I had. Like I saw everything exactly the way it was meant to be. It was perfect. And so I had 2 more days of training left where I couldn't do the judges and I couldn't put somebody on trial because I didn't feel anything else inside of me could do that. So I started looking at fear. And that's where things got really wild. Because I got the intuitive hits to look at my fear of aliens the next day.
Whoops, hold on one second. Sorry, I messed up the title, so I can't switch. Okay.
So after experiencing the most incredible change and the most incredible effect within myself, I felt different. I mean, I felt really different. And when I went in on day 6 of my training, I said, okay, I'm going to look at all my deepest fears.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to keep going deeper and deeper. And I was, okay, up until this point in my life, I was very afraid of aliens. I remember watching them like on Unsolved Mysteries when I was a kid. It was terrifying, all those. And I didn't want to look at pictures of them. I didn't want to talk about them. I wanted nothing to do with them. And it was weird to me that it came to me on the way to training, but I thought, okay, why not? So I thought about aliens, expecting that I was going to go into this fear response, but all of a sudden a face appeared in front of me, like an alien face. Yeah. And I mean, a bit clear as day, and with my eyes closed.
Is it the one you painted?
No.
Okay.
No. This one was the doctor in the training, but it was him as an alien.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Cool. It was like a greenish. And so I recognized, even though it was an alien form, I recognized who it was.
Yeah.
And he led me onto a ship. And
cool.
At the time this is happening, I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God, I could never tell anybody. People are gonna think I'm crazy. Like, am I crazy? Is this really happening? Like, I go into this ship and there's a boomerang shaped table. And there's all these different ETs sitting at this table. It's a council meeting. So I'm like, what is this? I'm pulled into some council meeting. Like, I'm afraid of ETs, and now there's a bunch of them, and none of them looked like the scary ones that I was expecting. Like, none of them. They're all different. But the ones that were sitting across from me were these really beautiful, bright blue feathered beings. I didn't know at the time that they were blue avians, but because I'd never heard of blue avians, but they were blue avians, and they were very beautiful, and they were telepathic, and they were telling me very specific messages, very loving messages. And they told me that what I consider to be guardian angels are them, that there's no difference between angels, extraterrestrials, or light beings, that we're all the same. And that was a really beautiful message for me. Yeah. And that they've been with me my whole life, that they've been watching over me, protecting me, and that they're going to help download me with all of my books when it's time to write them. Yeah. So I come out of this thinking, oh my gosh, what just happened? And at the end of the day, I tell Dr. Hart what I saw and what they told me. And he's the one that told me those are blue avians. And then I looked them up, and everything that they told me matched up to the information they're telling others. The images that people have drawn of them on the internet matched up to what I saw. And then I knew that I wasn't just making that up, that it wasn't just, my imagination. That was a very real experience. And that shifted me from that moment forward to start having contact experiences.
Wow. Okay, we're going to get into all this. We're going to talk about the book as well, because it's like, talk about a download. I mean, you did this like in a matter of weeks. Like, people spend 10 years writing a book, or 4 years, or whatever it is, and you're just like, oh, it's time to write my book. And I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden you're like unloading boxes of your book. And I'm like, what is going on? So we're going to talk about the workshop that you're going to do, and then we're
Mhm.
going to go into breakout groups.
Okay.
So in 2 weeks, we're going to have Racheal back, and she's going to do a workshop with us. And like, you can get the book so you can know kind of what we're going to go through in terms of like of the different things we're going to track. She's going to teach us how to use our body as our
As a divining rod.
yeah. And it's
essentially.
interesting because you don't need a hypnotist to do this. You don't need to pay someone $1 million to do theta
Mhm.
training with you, because this is going to be like, I feel like this is a textbook. Like,
Yeah,
I really
it's-
feel like this is going to be so huge. Like, people are gonna be like, it's not, because it's like the book you always ever wanted, because we know, like I kept saying in the ads for this event, like Joe Dispenza told us that our beliefs change our reality, but then you don't even know what your beliefs are because it's like in your subconscious and you don't know what your subconscious is. So
Yep.
it's like, this is like makes it all easy to do the
This is the
cleanup.
how-to manual. Yeah.
So what are you going to do in the workshop?
So we're going to go through some of the biggest beliefs that most people have and test for them. Because the thing with beliefs is we can hold opposing beliefs. So you might not consciously think that you're holding a belief,
Yeah.
but subconsciously you might be. And most of us probably are. I've been doing this work for 10 years. So I've cleared a lot of these beliefs myself, and I've seen a lot of these in other people. So I wrote the beliefs that I've experienced or I witnessed, the most common. There's still beliefs within myself that I turn up every now and again, right?
Yeah.
And so this is kind of I think of it as a fun, never-ending kind of workbook.
Yeah.
Where you're having an issue in your life and say, oh, let me go to that chapter on that particular thing.
Yeah.
And usually
and then you watch your life change.
Yes.
Which is so cool because
it's amazing, because when I was given the tools, when I became a Theta Healer and when I was doing Theta Healing and then became a certified healer, it was like somebody passed me the baton and said, now you can actually deal with the things in your life, and here's how.
Yeah.
Before Theta Healing was in my life, I did not have, I didn't have the tools and know what to do. And my book is more than that. It's a combination of what I've learned in my alpha training and my theta training, just in real life. So it's not really anything other than just going straight to the source of God, like straight to where we come from, and straight to this surrendering to a higher power where we know that we're not alone and we have help, and then going inward and we're connecting, our inner and our outer worlds.
Yeah.
It's all it really is.
That's so cool. Yeah. So this is like, I've really watched your life blossom. Like all of a sudden you go one store, two store. I watched you, it was like empty, your store. And then all of a sudden all this artwork and all these sales. And it's like, oh my gosh. Like, so it's been really, I'm like, wow, I want to pay attention to that, because remember, your life is basically your feedback mechanism. So, like, wait, why didn't I get that donation from the nonprofit? It's because something was, you know what I mean? So it's like if your brain is not allowing it, it's not going to show up in your reality because you have some belief that's messed up. So you can always, this is important. This is like super important because it's not that hard to change the belief and get a different reality, which is so crazy. So all right, so we're going to go into breakout groups. Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're super glad you're here. We do these hangouts, they're free. They're the first or second Thursday of every month. And we want to put you guys in small groups of 4 or so to talk to each other, because this is like so great. It's like oxygen to talk to other people that are interested in improving their lives and ETs and consciousness. And it's just like fun to make new friends. So I'm going to put everybody into breakout groups. Now, if you do not want to go, you just do not accept that breakout group, right? You're going to designate a timekeeper, and they're going to give each person 5 minutes. And then, when it's your turn, you just get to say whatever you want. You get to share your experience with your beliefs or your experience with ETs or anything that's going on in your life where you need support. And if you want someone to say something back to you, or if you want advice or anything, you can ask for it. Otherwise, they're just, everybody's just going to listen and support you. So I'm going to be moving people around in the breakout groups right when I put you in. So don't start talking right away, because you might get shifted. So we have the right about the right number in each group. So also, I just put in the chat, if you want to go to Rachel's workshop, it'll be in 2 weeks. So it's lightnet.org/join. And it's $11. You can cancel anytime for a membership. And then we also have this Dream, which her shop is called Dream Magic, which is $20 off of yearly. So you'll get 2 workshops, you get the spoon bending online, you'll get her workshop coming up, and then you'll have archives of everything, and then everything to come for the year. So very cool. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do the breakout groups. Now, this is going to be archived on LightNet, New Realities, Portal to Ascension. So don't feel like you're missing anything. You'll be able to go and watch the replays. Okay, so Rachel, I wanted to ask you, why don't we talk about before I put you guys in great breakout groups, let me give her the question. So we were talking about how, like, I use her tarot cards and it always nails, like I can count on it working with someone. And I have like maybe 5 or 6 decks, and I only use yours and a couple others, because it's like, so why do some decks seem to work better? Is it that we're like more synced, or?
Okay, so there's an energy and frequency behind every creation in this world. That's why, and the person who created something, right? That's why you pick certain things up and they feel good, or you pick them up and they don't feel good. I've picked up a lot of tarot decks that feel really dark to me. There are a lot of dark tarot decks, and I know why people are afraid of it. And even my own family was very afraid. And I was afraid at one point too of tarot, because I was 14 when I started reading tarot. And I was just working with, I was very superstitious back then. So, a deck was gifted to me. I found a book in a bookstore, and I started reading, and I didn't know where the power was coming from. I didn't know where the messages were coming from. I had no concept of higher self or, a spiritual kind of connection. So the cards became a little bit scary. I put them away for my young adult life up until probably my late 20s. I picked it back up again, and I started collecting tarot decks, and I realized I wasn't resonating with the decks that were out there. The frequency was off for me. The definitions of the tarot, there was so many conflicting definitions, and the way that one person would interpret the cards was different than another. The reversed cards felt really negative. And I was doing readings using other people's card decks and other people's books, and people were very depressed at the end of the reading. And I felt this responsibility, or this, like, I didn't want to do tarot readings and leave people feeling worse. So I was like, I need to write my own. I need to design my own deck. I need to write my own book. And I started studying with a tarot teacher, and she came into my reality very interesting. She just kind of popped into my world, gave me binders full of notes. But she did, years worth of notes from all these different tarot masters, right? And I started comparing notes, and I kind of held onto them for a very long time. And then one day, here's how I started to really shift my reality. Zenka, speaking of, I started saying no to things like the Super Bowl party, or the things I was just doing because everybody else is doing it. And I was like, do I really want to go watch football right now with my friends? Or do I want to go through tarot notebooks? And I remember thinking to myself, the collective consciousness is all focused on football right now. There's a void, like there's this big opening available of creativity. Like there's a huge window, like everyone's kind of like distracted over there. I'm going to look at tarot right now and do my own thing. And I kind of intuitively figured this out a long time ago, but Christmas, New Year's Eve, holidays, big occasions where the rest of people are focused on one thing, it creates big opening for a lot of downloads. And so I started creating things in these moments where I said, I'm going to say no to this collective reality, and I'm going to do what I actually want to do. And I remember taking her notebook, and I spent 2 full days just going through her notes, taking my own, making note cards, and getting everything written down on paper for myself. And the next day, she told me she wanted her notes back. It was really specific. Yeah. Right? And the weirdest part was she didn't ever want to see me again. Like she kept making excuses to not answer the door, not be home. I literally she was home and I dropped him on her doorstep. It was like I said, it was like very strange. She just showed up in my world, taught me a lot of things, gave me her notes. I never saw her again.
Wow.
I gave them back. But that prompted me to make my own deck because I was then using these little note cards. And after using note cards for a while, I was like, okay, now I need the artwork. Now I need the deck. And so I started drawing in the tarot.
Well, so what's so interesting about your tarot deck is, well, one of them that you let people draw their own deck, which is amazing and interesting. And then I want you to talk about the spirit animals because you did the first one, it was so popular, you did another one. And when I do readings with your deck all the time, and it always works for me, always, every time. And I actually think it's easier for them to remember than even tarot, because it's like, I'm like, when your confidence is like not to be found, you are going to remember this line or whatever, whatever it is. And so it's like, and I've used your cards in that way. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to remember this animal's right here teaching me to get out of that pattern and get into the growth pattern. You know what I mean? So what was, how did you decide to do the animal decks?
Okay, so to answer your other question too about why the cards work, I put the intention into all the cards that I've created that they will be the clearest channel. So a completely clear channel to get people information.
Interesting.
So that means I'm not in the way. No one else is in the way. This is when somebody picks up the card decks, whether it's the tarot, the animals, or the oracle, they're going to get the answers that they need. And so just that intention alone put into the creation, when people pick it up, they can feel it. Okay, so you can get the same information from a tarot deck, which has 78 cards, or you can get it from the animal deck, which has 77.
Do they match? Does it match like the sword of the
it's like
matched?
So you can pretty much find every message from the tarot in an animal.
Interesting.
And I picked 77 animals because the tarot it's a perfect representation of everything you'd want to look at. It's got the 4 suits. So each suit is an element: emotions, air sign, mind, fire, spirits, earth, pentacles, right? You've got all these different.
Cool.
So the 4 minor suits are your emotions and your thoughts, your spiritual purpose, and then how do you integrate that into earth?
Okay, I never knew all this.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Like wands is spirituality, and so wands is why you're here. It's your purpose and your imagination. Then how do you anchor that into pentacles? Money, job, career, house, right? So those two go hand in hand. And then cups and swords go together because it's your thoughts and your emotions. So you've got, and then you've got the major arcana on top of that. So the major arcana really goes through the fool's journey, this archetype, this story of finding yourself. And so there's a start and a completion. And so there's a story in the tarot. And then so people who are afraid of tarot cards, they're not afraid of animals. And so I made the animal deck for 2 reasons. I knew that I was here to help animals. That's been a purpose of mine. I knew that I was here to write books. And now I get to help people too. So it's kind of fun. The animal deck helps people, helps animals. It helps people connect to animals and care about them. I wanted people to find ways to connect with themselves, but also connect with animals and look at them in a very different light. I've had people come to my shop and pull a card and say, oh, I don't like that one. I don't like that animal. I don't like the shark. I don't like the spider. I don't like the snake, whatever it is. And then I read them the message and they love it. And so when they drop their preconceived, fears or ideas of something, and they get to the heart of the message and they get to the truth, they see it differently. And if people are now loving all the animals and not having biases, and they're looking at them differently, and they want to protect them. They want to care about them.
Let's talk about that in terms of the ET contact, because I mean, it's kind of like another species, right? I mean, well, we're probably ET, but I mean, I don't know. Like, so let's talk about like that. What are your thoughts on the whole ET thing?
So the reason I paint them, so I paint portraits of them, is so that people can see their faces or see them not in a scary way.
Yeah.
Because there's loving ones and there's not loving ones, right? It's just like, and it's like, think about humans. you can't quantify the human race and say the human race is good or evil.
Right.
There's aspects of both.
Yeah.
There are, with the extraterrestrials, you're going to have different ones that lean more towards benevolence, right? Or less. But as a whole, you can't just say that they're all good or bad. It's all relative, And there's hybrids. The one that you're showing, Sani, he's a hybrid of a Zeta Reticulon. And
he is like, tell me the story of his
human.
painting. This is a gigantic painting. It's so cool. Like what happened with that?
It was funny because I had just got to Sedona and I met a lot of people in my reality suddenly that were in the
galactic.
And my friend Gabe, he was 3D rendering these beings, and this one came to me in a dream. I was like, Gabe, I gotta make a painting of this one. So Gabe 3D rendered the being named Sani, and then I printed him and made this really beautiful painting around him. I don't know, this pattern kind of came in later on, and I don't even know where it came from. I just trusted the colors and the patterns that were coming through. Later on, I showed this, or my shaman Max came to my house with his wife, and he saw the painting, and he identified which tribe that came from and the contact with whatever extraterrestrials they were having up there, and he recognized it.
Wow!
And he asked for a copy, so I gave him a print.
Wow!
Yeah,
that's so cool.
So he recognized what I had made. But that's the thing, we have to trust that whatever's channeling through us, is, it's something.
Yeah.
My intention when I create anything is just it's love, it's light. So it's to elevate consciousness, elevate humanity. So I'm making sure that when I am a channel, it's a very clear channel, right? And even though I believe in God, I believe in aliens, right? And I believe in tarot, and it's like, it's not like one is exclusive to the other, because we're all part of the same universe, galaxy.
I have to admit, you're kind of a phenomenon to me, because I've watched people go into your shop. I mean, and they're just like, wow, the vibe in here is so good. And then they want to buy everything. And it's like, so we were doing the Motos experiment, right? With the rice, and I was yelling into it, and it was rotting. And then I was like, not yelling into it, and it wasn't rotting, the whole thing. And then I went on vacation. I just wrote on there love and hate, and it still worked. And I was like, and Viola Rose did it too. And we were just like, oh my gosh. So I started to realize that it wasn't BS, this whole thing about like, so there's layers, right? So there's intention, like you said, I put the intention in my cards. Yeah. Like most people don't even think to do that. I know Adrian at Disclosure Fest, he had like all his people when they're making the t-shirts, one thing's intention. One thing is actual content. You know what I mean? Like what it is. One thing is your vibration. Yeah. Like you literally, like people, it's like, I've never seen people react to someone like you. It's really wild. So it's like, really, when someone has something of yours, like a painting or book or whatever, it's like they have something of you. Maybe that's like quantum entanglement or something.
Well, my intention is that everything that I'm putting forward into this world is to help so it's got purpose to it. It's beautiful. Right? There's beauty and there's purpose together, form and function. If you can get the two of those together as an artist, it's pretty much the ideal right there. Is you want something to have a function that helps. You want it to be beautiful. You want it to be inspiring. My intention in my shop is that everybody who walks in feels more uplifted, inspired, happy, confident, and beautiful. Right? So they're feeling that when they walk in, and they might not know what they're feeling or why. Like they know it feels good, but that's my intention, is when you walk through my door and you leave, you're going to leave feeling better than when you walked in.
That's so bizarre, because that really is this leap of because it's like this leap of understanding that we can do this in the world. Like we can be these lights, and we can be this, like this, it's almost like, like the brainwave entrainment. So it's like, if I'm sitting here and I'm being a light and I'm being love, and then there's someone that's being hate. It's like one of us, one of us will entrain to the other. If my cup is like down, I might entrain that way. If, you know what I mean? But love is actually stronger than
I used to get really mad because my friends would they wouldn't understand me in LA, and they would mistake my kindness for weakness. And they would think that because I was being kind, I was weak, right? And I try to explain to them, I'm choosing to be kind in these situations because I can let somebody take my energy down, or I can hold my energy, and it's their choice if they want to rise up to that energy or not. Most people don't, right? If they're in a really bad mood but that doesn't mean I have to be taken down to a bad mood or taken down to a fight or, an energy level where they're trying to pull you in. So I realized a long time ago, if I hold my energy, that's actually harder. It gets easier over time when you start to practice that, especially in tough situations. Like that's your best time to strengthen yourself is, can you be happy and kind when others aren't? It's easy to be happy and kind among nice people, but can you hold that frequency when somebody walks up to you and isn't? And so another part of my intention with my shop is I ask for the right people to walk through my door.
Interesting.
And I ask to keep the ones out. I ask to keep the ones out that are very, very dark.
Yeah, like incoherent or like confused or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow. See, that's the part that I also really learned from you that I've never heard any other teacher explain. And we already touched on it, but I think it's worth touching on one more time, which is that it's like I've been explained that it's like the universe keeps showing you experiences like, you date the same guy over and over again because you never learned the lesson or whatever you like, this job or whatever it is, like doing the same thing, right? Then you learn, and then the universe doesn't give you that lesson anymore. And then they do it, then it does just to check. But it's like, and when you have that balanced emotion, it's not going to swing back at you, but it's also like, I'm always so optimistic that I never had that, the back that you said, like, so like I said, it's like, oh, well, I got this couch and that's like, it's pretty great. Like, why should I complain about it? You know what I mean? Instead of like saying, well, no, I want a couch. There's a fold out couch or whatever the thing is about an example. Like, so how did you learn that? How did that come to you? Because that's really fascinating.
So you have to be able to refuse certain things in your reality and hold out for something better, right? Don't just take the first thing that comes at you. So it's a trial and error, and things will get better, better, better if you allow them to, right? So imagine that imagine like you could go all the way up here. Yeah. And the first thing the universe gives you is down here. Yeah. And you're like, okay, that's it. I want it. But it's not quite it, right? You're settling. I'm like, all right, well, it's like almost there. So you take it. But if you really hold out and say, oh, that thing that's showing itself, or that opportunity, that person, it's close, but this isn't really what I wanted. And I'm not afraid of, if you're in an abundant mentality and not a lack mentality, you're going to say, okay, I trust that if I don't just take this first thing that's not quite right, that if I hold out, the next one's going to appear, like the next opportunity, the next person, right? With dating, this is really important. We all do this with dating, right? We don't just form a relationship with the first person we go on a date with. Some people do.
Or jobs.
Or jobs, like, right?
Yeah.
If you really trust in yourself and trust in the universe that, okay, this one came in to show me that I don't like this. I don't like this part of reality. So thank you for showing it. Like, thank you for coming into my world, showing me what I don't like and making me clear on what I do. And then you say next and you let it go. You say, okay, next time, universe. And then I get really clear. Next time, universe, I want this, this, and this. And then the universe gives it to me. And I'm like, oh, wow, I thought I wanted that, but that's not quite it. Yeah. Now that I experienced it, I realized that helped me to learn a little bit more. And now I'm ready for the next thing, right? And you do this over and over again. You kind of fine tune your reality until you reach that place where it feels good. Or think about jobs and friendships and things that come into our reality. Not everything lasts forever. So certain things are meant to come in They're meant to serve a purpose, and then we're meant to let them go.
Mm.
Right. So I think most people get stuck when they're holding on to things they've outgrown. And I see this in my tarot readings all the time. There's a fear of taking a leap of faith. There's a fear of letting go of the job that's secure, that's stable, that's comfortable, and taking the new risk, right? So we have to learn to trust the risk, or trust that if we let go, something better is going to come in.
Yeah.
And that's the key. That's the faith, the trust and the surrender.
Yeah.
And the letting go.
It is literally the hardest thing to do. And when I've done it like a couple big times,
It always
and
works.
it was like,
Yeah.
it was like bonsai. It was like all the stuff, like it was like extraordinarily good results, but it was scary, man. It was so scary. I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this.
So most people,
so maybe it's that emotion that drives something better, because you're like,
well, it's the fear of the unknown. Most people are afraid of the unknown.
Yeah.
And I know this because of the tarot readings, right? The reason people don't want to do tarot readings is because they don't want to know the future. They don't want to know the unknown. They're afraid.
Yeah.
So I always remind people, the future is not fixed. So there is no one future for everybody. Like it's like an unlimited potential every single day. So every day you have an unlimited potential to affect your reality. So what choices are you making today that are going to bring that next thing into your reality, right? So if you're doing the same thing all the time, over and over and over again, you're going to get the same results.
Yeah.
So you've got to make changes in your life to bring in something new, which means letting go of the fear and letting go of whatever is in the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of fun. Like, you get to a place where it works so much that you trust. You say, okay, I know when I let go of this thing, something better is going to come in. And it works both ways. It works with generosity. It works with, okay, so for example, when I left LA, I called off a wedding. And that was really tough because I really loved him. And I didn't want to call off the wedding, but I had to.
Yeah.
And so I had a really beautiful life, but I had to let it all go and trust that whatever was going to be next would be better. And I had no vision. I had no idea what it would be, where I was supposed to live. But I did recognize that I was in a very good position to give in those moments. And generosity and giving to others was the only thing that kind of lifted my spirits when I was sad. And so I was like, okay, what can I do in these moments? I gave all my furniture away. When I got rid of my lease on my apartments, I gave everything away, and people were coming over, this is LA, right? People are coming over and saying, like, what's wrong with this stuff? Like, what's wrong with it? Why are you giving it to me? I said, because I don't want the attachment to it. I'm going to probably buy a van or an RV. I'm gonna travel. I don't need this. And I recognized how much generosity had been given to me to that point. A lot of furniture was given to me in my time in LA. I moved so many times.
And then you got given furniture here because the house that you bought was totally furnished.
So what I did, so when I let go, I let go fully. I let go of my relationship, my apartments. I gave the furniture. I didn't sell the furniture because I didn't need money. I said, I don't need money. And I've been given a lot, so I'm going to give. And I said, universe. And I was really clear. I said, universe, when I need furniture again, please replenish me.
Interesting.
And so I gave away my furniture. It felt really good to see people happy. And I knew that I didn't want it. And I traveled for a year and a half in an RV. And then I moved to Sedona, and I had a blow up air mattress and camp lawn chairs in my living room for about 6 months. And it was, and I had this really cute little house I had a vision in my mind. Okay. When I traveled in the RV, I said, I want to find my next home. So again, having very specific intentions is good. Okay. I said, I want to find my next home. And when I drove through Sedona the first time, before the brainwave training, like 6 months into my road trip, I drove through Sedona. I saw an apple sign for apple cider, and it felt like home because, I grew up with apple orchards and cider mills, and I saw this apple cider sign in the canyon. It was along the creek on 89A, and I thought, oh wow, that feels like a really beautiful place. Never stopped, never went, but I remembered it. I remember that feeling, and it was like a GPS marker. And so at the end of my travels, I said, I should go back to Sedona, to that one stretch of highway by that apple sign, and find a place to live. And what happens? I come and I do the Biocybernaut brainwave training. I have 2 weeks in Sedona. So my first week is training.
Cool.
I decide during my training that I'm going to live here. So I have 1 week to find a house. And I found the cutest little house on the creek across the street from the Apple sign. Like exactly where I felt. Yeah. I mean, I cried when I stepped into the house because I knew that I knew it wasn't my forever home. But I said, this is going to be my home before I buy. This is going to be my last place I ever rent again.
Yeah.
And that's the house that I spent 6 months in. And it felt like home and I loved it. And I had the air mattress and I had, just random pieces of furniture that weren't really special, but they felt like home and they felt great. And then I found my dream house walkable just down the street. And with it, 6 months later, I ended up buying my dream home and it came fully furnished.
Yeah.
And the furniture it came with were
Awesome.
like vintage marble top
Super cool
antiques,
stuff.
like
Beautiful,
beautiful,
wow.
Better than what I let go of. And I just remember thanking the universe, like, thank you. The trust, the surrender paid off. And I had no doubt that it would.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so cool.
So these are really beautiful examples that we have available all the time with generosity, with relationships, with everything in our life. It all applies.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I'm going to bring people back from the breakout rooms. I'm also going to share your website real quick. And then we're going to take questions. So we've already got some great questions. So here we go. Whoops. Let me just make sure I did that right. Okay, great. So okay. So welcome everyone back. We are going to now get into questions. This, by the way, is the way to join the workshop. You just go to lightnet.join. You can use the discount DREAM for an awesome discount. Welcome everybody back from the breakout rooms. So we have some questions for you, which is great. So the first one came from one of our amazing, he's an artist and he's one of our members and he's super galactic and very oh my God, the stuff he creates is super incredible. And he's asking about destiny cards. Do you have any idea what destiny cards are?
No.
No.
Are they oracle cards?
Yeah. MK, I don't know if.
Probably oracle, I'm assuming.
So he's saying some people prefer oracle cards, some people prefer tarot.
No difference.
Is no difference.
Oh, the only thing is tarot is always the same 78 cards. So every tarot deck's going to follow the same archetype, same tradition. But destiny cards or oracle cards could be any topic and any number and any interpretation you want. Okay, great. So there's going to be a lot of those. So Viola Rose, who is also a beloved member of our community here, she's a sound healer. She does drum below Melchizedek, sessions. Amazing. Viola Rose, amazing. And she's asking you how much of your superhero skill level of living your best life, so I would describe that as you, do you attribute back to the Biocybernaut Institute? So nothing really shifted too much with so my life was already magical before Biocybernaut, but what did change during that training is I saw my brain waves go from back to front. They were balanced from left to right and back to front. So I watched my coherency completely sync up. So the best thing I took from Biocybernaut was just being able to witness my own brain activity, my heart. As my heart changed, my brain changed, right? So I could see the real-time syncing of my heart and my mind, my left brain, my right brain. It's hard to say, really. I was already kind of doing this, and I feel like it would have continued regardless of Biocybernaut. I'm grateful that I got to do that and see it's like you can see energy for the first time in a physical way and hear your brain.
Why were they training for alpha when, if you said like, oh, it was like meditation, you know, like you think of people not being, are people in alpha when they're meditating? Like,
yes, yeah, alpha is meditation. Yes.
Okay.
So when you're meditating or you're in a flow state or you're in a very high state of consciousness, alpha is the ideal brainwave state. If you're in beta, that's the stress. That's more of like a stress response or tasks and, you know, logic and figuring things out.
Yeah.
So alpha is a very, almost like a flow state.
Yeah. And they do, they also do theta training, and they also do invite only delta training. Yeah. It's so crazy, man.
I was definitely getting delta activated during my training. And abilities were definitely opening up for me that scared me, honestly, because I didn't know. It was a lot opening up really fast. Seeing hypnotic tunnels of energy, for example, or seeing the power that words have on another person. But that was delta energy awakening or activating. So it was a very powerful training. And for anybody who wanted to do that on their own, do forgiveness work. Like go spend, you know, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days even, where you don't talk to anybody, you're not on your cell phone, you're completely alone. And you're just dealing with anything that feels like you're holding it, any kind of trauma, grief, sadness, anything you're holding. As you let it go and as you lighten your heart, you're going to change your brain. You're going to change everything. You just won't have the, you know, the technology to see it, which is what the Biocybernaut allowed me to see.
Yeah, that's so amazing. It's like almost like if you're constantly negotiating grudges and all this stuff, then you like a third of your energy is dealing with that, because it's like it's all the subtext stuff you don't even want to say. It's like deep down, I'm mad at you. Deep down, I feel like you rejected me. Deep down, I feel like you wronged me. And so the conversation can be whatever it is, but deep down, there's all that negotiation that's going on in your mind. Like, and it gets too complicated, and you got to free up that energy, man.
And ultimately it's showing you that you feel abandoned or you feel rejected or you feel a certain way. So then you can say, oh, thank you. Like, thank you to this person who is challenging me, because this person's bringing up feelings in me.
Yeah.
And that person's just a outside reflection. It's just somebody in my reality, and they're triggering something within myself. So you learn to see them as a gift in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you take responsibility and you do the work.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's no problem anymore. You're like, oh, we're good.
Yeah.
like I forgive this person.
Yeah.
So you can do the work on your own and get really big results.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to share the link. Someone's asking for the Biocybernaut Institute. We're also going to share Rachel's workshop link, because we're also going to go through how to clear out, besides forgiveness, what other BS you have. You know what I mean? So I'm super glad. Welcome, Hunter. He's a beloved member of our ET community, such a powerhouse. And he has such a great question, because I was going to ask you the same thing. So Hunter, do you want to unmute yourself? If not, I can go ahead and ask the question. Okay. So, oh, here he goes.
Hi.
Hey, Hunter.
Hi, Rachel. So I was wondering, what are your current practices you do the most often that you feel are the most important?
Yeah, like I was gonna say, like, what is your day like? Like, when do you wake up? What do you do?
Okay, so it's funny because I don't have a very specific practice, but I tell people my art is my practice, because I paint every day, or like I either write or I paint, I make jewelry or I make ceramics, right? I'm doing something creatively where I get into a flow state. So 2 days a week, I'm in the ceramic studio, and all I'm focusing on is just making beautiful pottery.
What's your happy day?
If you can't tell, I'm loving my ceramic days, because 2 days a week, I'm in a different location, by myself in a studio in the dark with this clay. And it's a very meditative state, because I'm on a wheel and I have to center the clay and my mind cannot drift. If my mind goes into a bad thought or gets stressed, everything gets wobbly on the wheel. And so I kind of blend my like just the life itself is the training, right? So I make sure that I'm focused on, well, okay, I will say this, presence. Presence has been my practice. A couple of years ago, I changed my New Year's resolution from having goals and resolutions to just being present. And I said, I want every day to be, I just want to focus on whoever's in front of me and whatever's in front of me every day and make that my top priority.
Yeah.
And that has been the secret, I swear, to changing my life, because it makes me not feel like there's somewhere else I'd rather be. I don't feel rushed or pressured, or like if someone's in front of me and I'm having a conversation, it feels like that's exactly where I'm supposed to be in that moment. If I'm making pottery, if I'm painting, it's exactly where I'm supposed to be. And like, find these things in your life, like find a way to make your life your meditation is what I'm saying.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Because then you don't need a break. You don't have to take a break from your life to go meditate, right? If I'm making art for hours and I feel like I need some fresh air or I need sunshine, then I stop what I'm doing and I go on a walk, right? So I'm kind of listening to myself every single day. I start every morning outside. Like I wake up and I have a cup of espresso in a mug that I made on my front or back porch. And that feels really good. Like to hold something, that was a block of clay. Now it's this beautiful cup, to drink something that tastes good, to look at the birds, to look at the nature. So every single moment, find a way to make it special,
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. Yeah, it's like, and I always say like, stay curious, because it's like, oh, what is this person bringing to my day? Like, oh my gosh, like, why, it's like, wow, what's this message?
Oh, leave room for the unexpected. Yeah. Like leave room for the magic in your life. Right. I'm not a good person with schedules or routine.
I'm not either.
I try to
crazy.
Yeah. I try to say, oh, I should set a schedule for myself, but it doesn't really work. What I do notice is if I get bad habits, right? Like if I'm on my phone too much, or if I'm like mindlessly scrolling social media, I'm like, what am I doing? This is really like how did I get here? And then I stop and I go do something that I actually want to do. So you can catch yourself in these moments and hopefully unprogram anything that becomes a habit.
Yeah.
It's not a good one.
One of the things you taught me too was like, you were like, Zenka, if you don't, you said, I don't commit to being anywhere until a couple hours, if at all, before I go, because it might be that night. I mean, you're talking about the Super Bowl, but like, it might be that moment. And then you go, do I really want to go to this party? Do I really want to do this? And if you only half want to go, then you are compromising your vibrational math, basically, because as we learn in the spoon bending, it's all adding up. So my field, your field, all of it, plus like, and like, if we're, and it also goes back to this idea, if we're living our lives for someone else, then that's that one regret that everyone has when they die, is like, I live my life for someone else. So obligation, schmogulation, or could say like, what, like, remember that if you really don't need to go somewhere, your friends are going to understand, or whatever, what I mean? Like, so how did you learn that? Does anybody have any questions? Please write them in, because we're going to ask Racheal to her final thoughts and anything she wants to say. But yes, yes. Nadia is saying that. That's so cool. Yeah. So final questions, go ahead and type into the chat. And thank you so much, all the members who are members of LightNet. Your energy in this in LightNet is really meaningful to us. We're so glad you guys all came out. We're happy that you came to watch the replays of this. Thank you for showing up in your life. Thank you for growing and learning. If you're on YouTube, hit like, all that, hit subscribe, all that stuff. Like, we're really excited to band together, because it feels good to be together. And this community has really been fun. So yeah. So we've got Susan, who's also, she bent a spoon like literally in a shape I've never seen. Really? It was the coolest thing. It was like this. It was like an arc, and she was like, oh yeah, it was just like all of a sudden it was like, and I was like, whoa. And she's really amazing. So she's saying, have you had any premonitions given readings for people of this time in relation to revelations in the apocalypse? Do you ever see something of dark nature in someone's card? How do you present a shift to elevate that state?
Okay,
Big
so
question.
couple questions. Yes, I had some premonitions about what's happening right now in 2019. I had a dream where I was shown 2025.
I think,
Yeah, I was taken to a hospital in 2025 and I saw everything that's happening, which I'm not going to get into here, but I was aware of what was coming, which is funny because I knew everything to come. And I was getting I was waking up every morning of buy toilet paper, go stock up on this, go get this thing, right? Go do this thing. But I also got offline at that same time. Like I sold my online business 2 weeks before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Knowing that everyone was getting online. And here's the thing where you have to trust and you have to follow your own path, regardless of what's happening with everybody else. Because I knew that after 15 years of working online, and keep a sense of humor too, because I said, I just want to be in the real world with people. I just want to get off the computer and be in front of people. And then I knew we were about to have to quarantine and shut down. I was like, all right, this is funny. I'm choosing right now to let go, finally, let go of my online career, sell this business and open up a physical store. And yeah, and that happened. And I knew it was happening and I didn't worry. So I didn't go into fear. I didn't go into worry. I said, okay, this is going to happen, but it's going to be temporary. I'll get through it. And I'm supposed to just take a break right now. And how funny is the universe that I literally decide at this moment, and then it's like, no, I can't be with people. I'm supposed to take a break. Okay, so I paint my animals, I take a break. And when we open back up again, then I'll be with people. But you have to trust your intuition, even knowing what's collectively happening, knowing that your purpose is greater than, whatever kind of fear or control mechanisms are going into place. Like there's things happening that we can't stop, but it doesn't mean that we can't have this magical life. Like
it turned out so well for you. Like it actually turned out really well.
That's the thing. Is like I'm always going against the grain, right? I'm doing the things that people would say, why are you doing that? This doesn't make any sense. But so having visions, yes, it's good. It's helpful information. It shows me what to expect and then it tests me and say, okay, I know what's about to happen, but I'm still going to live my life anyway. Like I'm still going to do what I love and it doesn't matter. And then everything just works out. It always works. And then when I'm doing readings for somebody, yes, speaking of dark nature, it's usually not in the cards, it's in the person themselves. And some people do have very dark energy. I actually bought this pendant right here to help me with that.
Oh, cool.
It's the seal of Saint Benedict. It wards off dark spirits. So I found certain like smoky quartz crystal or the seal of Saint Benedict actually helps to keep away the darker spirits. They usually just don't even want to be around. And the people who have those working through them, they usually just leave.
And you've told people like, you're like, these cards before the reading, it's like you have multiple options when you to what you do with this information. So
I'll always present it so I'll present information in a way that gives the person the choice. I've had to say, I've had to tell people things that not everyone's making good, or how do I say this? Like people are doing bad things and they're okay with it. They come to my reading and they tell me what they're doing. And I ask them, is your soul happy doing that? Like, do you really feel good when you do that to somebody or when you do this in your life? And so I get to the deeper question of just because you can do this, like, do you want to, or does it feel good? And I try to put it in a way where I'm speaking to their soul. And then it usually puts it into a better perspective for them. And I let them know, if you do these things, there are consequences. Like, just so you know, there's no escaping the karma of your actions. So if you're going to do this, just know that this could be a result or this could happen. And you have a choice if you want to do good things or bad things.
And there's something that he said, like sometimes, like I picked a card the other day from your deck and I was like, oh my gosh, like I was actually, and I was like, wow, you know, I was in denial of the card.
Yeah.
I was like, that doesn't fit. Like, this is the first time it's never fit. Like, how could this one card not fit? But it does fit. So there's it's like back to you lying to the theta person because deep down you wanted to glaze over the pain part because you don't want to bear, you don't want to stand naked in front of other people.
I had 15 women for a retreat and I was reading for all of them in a row. So this is back to back to back. One of the girls who sat down threw a tantrum and threw her cards in the ground because she didn't get the card she wanted.
Yeah.
And I felt for her. She threw them, she ended up having a really good conclusion, but she threw the cards in the ground because she wanted to be past the struggle and she wasn't yet, but she was trying to pretend like she was, and the struggle was still there. And so when it came up in the reading, she, you know, she had to face that, and it was a little messy, but it was a really interesting experience for me because I've never had anybody throw a tantrum before. And I didn't judge
probably
it.
what unlocked her.
Yeah.
She probably did get to the other side of it. It's just, it's like those moments, like
I was like, wow, this is so fascinating. Like most people people either respond, a lot of people will cry. And then I learned early on that the people who are very straight-faced or stone cold are the ones that are trying not to cry. Right? Because they're trying to hold it together. So I realized like it's really touching everybody in a very different way. And it's not up to me to judge how they react or if they're having a good time or not a good time, but it's helpful. And I always do my best to present it in a way that does not overpower their free will and puts suggestions in that would help them choose the higher path if they want it.
Yeah. Very cool. So we're going to wrap at this point. We're going to give you one final moment to share anything that you want to for this now moment, like in this world and everything. I also want to share, so this is the page on LightNet. It's lightnet.join, and we're going to be, so it's $11 for the workshop. You can come back in 2 weeks. And Rachel's going to go over her book. There's also tons of cool archives. Adam Curry, yes. Dean rated, yes. You know, spearmending parties. We've been having a lot of fun with that. So we really hope that you can join us in 2 weeks. And so Rachel, thank you so much for spending so much time with us tonight. And you've been such an inspiration to me and a teacher, and like, oh, I just got goosebumps. So like, is there anything else you want to share tonight?
I'm just so happy to be here, and thank you everyone who showed up tonight just to learn more information, and thank you for all the nice messages that are coming through from everyone. Yeah, just follow your joy and your purpose and your love, and just do what you want to do every day, and trust that you're going to be okay. Yeah, because we're always going to be okay.
We got to think of a word for that. It's like leap of joy, right?
Yeah.
When you leap towards your choice, somehow it's going to work out, because it always does.
It always works out.
It always works out. All right, you guys, love to all of you. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. All right.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.